All right, Walter Wofford back. Today, I want to introduce a topic to you, taking title in a land trust. Now, most investors that I know take title either in their personal name or in an LLC, but I'm going to give you one more option that might make some sense to you. So I've been using land trust to take title since 1997. So what prompted me to learn about land trust was the day somebody knocked on my door and served me with a lawsuit for $50,000, and it was in a house that I didn't own, and the tenants had a dog that I didn't give permission for that sicked the dog on the meter reader when they were cutting it off. And so the meter reader got bitten, sued me for $50,000. That's the day that I woke up to the reality that I need to protect what I got. So it worked out just fine. It took 5 years in the court system, and during that time, tort reform came to Mississippi, and so he got 3 times actual damages, which was 1,300 times 3. Anyway, it can happen. It can happen to you, and you need to protect your assets, keep people from coming after them. So, as always, I've got my AI team helping me with the content creation and delivery. Bill and Judy coming up next. Now, if you want a copy of this ebook, just take your camera, put it up to the QR code, hit the link, and sign up, and you'll immediately get the ebook sent to your email directly. All right, Walter Wofford, Land Trusts.
Okay, let's dive in. If you're in the short-term rental game right now, you know things are getting, well, trickier.
Yeah, definitely more competitive
Okay.
and more complex with regulations and just standing out.
Exactly. You want to build smart, protect what you're building, and, lots of folks jump straight to LLCs, one for every property, maybe?
Which is, yeah, a really important step. Solid advice, usually.
But what if there's another tool? Something maybe a bit under the radar that gives you this extra layer of privacy and flexibility, especially if you're doing creative deals, like seller financing or subject to.
Ah, okay. Now you're talking about the land trust. That's exactly what the source material we looked at digs into. It's presented as this powerful structure, often overlooked.
Right. So that's what we're doing today. This deep dive is all about unpacking the land trust based on these sources. How does it actually work for STRs? What are the kind of surprising upsides?
And the practical stuff, too, how you actually use it.
Yeah, the goal is you walk away really getting it quickly.
Okay, so fundamentally, the source describes a land trust as, honestly, pretty simple. It's just a legal thing set up by a written agreement.
Simple, but the power's in the details, right? The structure.
Exactly. You've got 3 main players. First, the trustor or settler. That's usually you, the person putting the property in the trust.
Got it, the owner.
Then there's the trustee. This person or entity holds the legal title. Like on paper, they own it.
Okay, but they don't really control it.
Nope, that's the third party. The beneficiary. They have all the real control, make the decisions, get the income, all the benefits, and the beneficiary. That's usually you again, or maybe your LLC.
Okay, so where does the privacy come in? This is the key part people talk about.
Right, and the source is super clear on this, the trust agreement. The document outlining all this, it's private, it doesn't get filed anywhere public.
Ah, so it's not like an LLC filing that shows up in state records.
Precisely. What is public is the deed to the property. But that deed, it only shows the trustee's name and the name of the trust itself. Something like on 123 Main Street Land Trust.
So your name, or your company's name, stays off that public record.
Exactly. Kept completely separate.
So say I'm buying a place and want this privacy right from the start. How do I, physically do that at closing?
It's actually, according to the source, pretty straightforward. You just tell the seller's attorney or the title company, hey, deed this property directly into the Sunshine Villa Land Trust, or whatever you've named it.
Before you even take titles yourself?
Yep. The deed goes straight from the seller into the trust. Your name never has to touch that public document.
Let's use that example from the source.
Yeah.
Say you buy a cabin near Gatlinburg, hot market.
Okay.
Instead of the deed saying My Awesome Cabin LLC, it says Smoky Mountain View Land Trust. And the trustee is, your lawyer, Jane Smith.
Right. And the beneficiary is your LLC, My Awesome Cabin LLC.
So you, through your LLC, still manage the bookings, collect the rent, fix the leaky faucet.
Total control. Exactly. But if someone curious looks up the owner in the county records, they just see the trust name and Jane Smith, trustee. Not you.
That separation, That's where the real advantages start stacking up for STR investors, isn't it?
That's what the source material argues. It lays out, I think, 7 key benefits.
Okay, let's walk through them. Benefit 1 is that big one we just hit on, privacy from public records.
Yeah, and for STRs, this isn't just about being secretive. Think about it. You have guests, maybe neighbors who aren't thrilled, code enforcement checking things out.
Or worse, someone looking for deep pockets to sue.
Right. If they search the property address, they hit the trust name and trustee, it just makes it harder to immediately connect you to that property. Or maybe even harder to connect you to multiple properties if you own a few. It adds a layer of anonymity.
Which kind of flows into the second benefit.
Yeah.
Protection from lawsuits. Not bulletproof, but...
Exactly. The source calls it a deterrent. Like if someone's looking for an easy target with obvious assets tied to their name, you're less visible.
Makes you look less like those deep pockets.
And importantly, if you do face a lawsuit related to one property, having each one in its own separate trust helps you show their isolated assets. It contains the problem, potentially.
Okay, benefit 3. This was really interesting, especially now. Creative financing made easier.
Yeah, this is a big one highlighted in the source. Think seller financing or subject to deals. Sometimes sellers get nervous transferring title directly to a buyer they barely know.
Understandable.
But putting it into a neutral land trust, maybe with a professional trustee, that can feel safer or more structured to the seller. It adds a layer of formality.
And there's that really crucial legal point about mortgages. The due on sale clause. That's huge for sub-2.
Absolutely critical. Most mortgages let the bank call the loan due if you sell or transfer the property. But there's this law, the Garn-St. Germain Act from '82, and the source points out it has exemptions. Transferring property into a land trust can be exempt from triggering the due on sale clause if the original borrower, the person whose mortgage it is, remains a beneficiary of that trust.
Wow. Okay, so you can take over a property subject to, put it in a trust where the seller is still a beneficiary, maybe alongside you or your LLC.
And potentially avoid triggering that clause, giving you much more confidence in doing those kinds of deals. It's a very specific but powerful feature.
That does feel like a game changer. Okay, 4th benefit, easy and private transfers. What's this about?
This is about flexibility after you own it. Once the property is in the trust, the source says you don't need a new deed recorded publicly if you want to transfer the ownership.
Wow.
You just assign your beneficial interest. It's done with a private document and assignment agreement. No public filing, no big closing usually.
Okay, so when would that be useful?
Well, imagine bringing on a partner. You just assign them a percentage of the beneficial interest. Or maybe you're selling the property off market to another investor.
You just assign the whole beneficial interest to them.
Exactly. They step into your shoes as beneficiary. Or maybe you're selling the whole STR business. The property, the furniture, the Airbnb listing, everything as a package. Selling or assigning the beneficial interest can make that much simpler.
Makes sense. Number 5, simplified estate planning.
Yeah, this is more straightforward, but really useful long-term. In that private trust agreement, you can name successor beneficiaries.
So like who gets it if something happens to you?
Right, and the property can pass to them directly outside of probate court, which can save a lot of time, money, and public hassle, especially if you have multiple properties or ones bought with creative financing. It keeps things cleaner for your heirs.
Nice. Benefit 6, simplified operations across multiple properties.
This comes back to that idea of one trust per property. The source really emphasizes this.
Why?
It keeps everything separate. Finances become much easier to track. You can have separate bank accounts or, like the source mentions, use tools like RelayFi sub-accounts for each property's income and expenses.
So you know exactly how each STR is performing.
Yep, and if you want to sell just one or refinance just one, it's totally isolated from the others. Clean and simple.
Okay, last one, number 7. Lower cost than LLCs. How so? Don't you still need an LLC?
Good question. You likely still want an LLC as the beneficiary for that liability shield and tax structure. But the cost issue is about setting up separate LLCs for every single property.
Especially if they're in different states. That means multiple state filing fees, annual reports.
Exactly. Lots of recurring costs and paperwork. And if you miss a filing, the state could dissolve your LLC. Land trusts, on the other hand, usually just have a one-time setup cost. Minimal or no ongoing state fees or filings for the trust itself.
Okay, that's a compelling list. But theory is one thing. Let's talk about a real-world example the source gave Walter.
Right, Walter's case study. So he apparently built up a portfolio of 10 STR units across Mississippi and Alabama.
Using mostly seller financing and sub-2 deals, right?
That's what the source says. And the key was his structure. Every single property went into its own land trust.
One trust per property.
Yep. And he used his attorney as the neutral trustee for all of them, and the beneficiary of every single trust, his main operating LLC.
So again, anyone searching public records in either state finds a trust name and the attorney's name. Not Walter, not his LLC directly tied to the address.
Precisely. Privacy maintained. Then, for operations, the money flows through his LLC's accounts, maybe using those sub-accounts for tracking each property, his Airbnb listings linked to the LLC.
So the business identity is the LLC, but the property ownership is shielded by the trust.
Exactly. And the source notes this acts as a buffer if a guest has an issue, and when he sells. He just assigns the beneficial interest for that one property's trust, no public deed change.
That really paints a picture of how these benefits work together. The source also gave some practical tips for actually doing this. What were the main ones?
Okay, yeah, the takeaways. Number 1, use one trust per property. Keeps things clean.
We've heard that a few times now. Seems important.
Definitely. Second, use a professional or nominee trustee. Not yourself if you want real privacy. Could be an attorney, a trusted friend, a company that offers trustee services.
Okay. Third,
name your LLC as the beneficiary. Get that combo of trust, privacy, and LLC protection.
makes sense.
Fourth, get help from an attorney who actually knows land trusts. Don't DIY the trust agreement. It needs to be solid.
Good advice. And the fifth tip was about insurance and banking. That sounds crucial.
Oh, absolutely vital. You can't mess this up. The property title is in the trust's name. But your insurance policy, it needs to name the beneficiary, your LLC, as the insured party.
Otherwise, the insurance company might deny a claim.
Could happen. Same with banking. You need to set it up correctly so the income and expenses flow through the right entity, usually the beneficiary LLC. Takes coordination.
Okay, now let's be real. The source included a caution, right? This isn't some kind of magic shield.
Not at all. And it's really important to stress this. The source is clear. A land trust is a tool. A useful one, but just one part of your strategy.
It doesn't mean you can skip the basics.
Absolutely not. You still need good insurance. You still need solid contracts. You absolutely have to follow all the STR rules and regulations in your area. You still need good legal advice for your overall business.
The trust gives you an edge, maybe some camouflage, but it doesn't replace running a tight ship.
Exactly. It enhances your position. It doesn't make you invulnerable or excuse bad practices.
When we pull it all together, what's the main message from these sources about land trusts for STRs?
I think the core takeaway is that they offer this really interesting mix of privacy, flexibility, and control that's especially relevant in today's STR world.
It's presented as a way to kind of stay one step ahead, keep your name out of the spotlight a bit more.
Yeah, whether you're just starting or scaling up with creative finance deals, it's about being strategic with your structure.
Build smart, stay private, protect the dream. I like that summary.
Like a land trust right from the beginning. How could that fundamentally change how you approach risk and how easily you can scale your STR investments down the road?